I wanted to show him that here's Bibi Netanyahu saying anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support. So that means he doesn't want his two-state solution right there.
Yeah,
that's Netanyahu saying, I don't want a one-state solution, and we certainly don't want a two-state solution.
The great David Ben-Gurion did not want that as well. A partitioning, he did not want that. It's never been a thing.
He wanted to just get rid of them, right?
Think of it like the Minsk Accords. No intention of ever honoring that idea. That's to tell rubes back in America.
So here's what Bibi says. Anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. This is part of our strategy. Our strategy is to divide and conquer and prop up the militant wing of the Palestinians so that they will actually fight back against us, and then we can use it as a pretext to wipe those people off Gaza and the West Bank, which is exactly what they're doing. And how else do they do it? Israel drove suitcases stuffed with cash into Gaza to keep Hamas in power, because the PLO actually fights against the militant wing of the Palestinians, and they don't want them. They actually want they want them to be militarized. They want them to be attacking Israel, so they can use it as a pretext to do exactly what they're doing right now: ethnic cleanse Gaza and the West Bank. That's what they want. And so here, Arnaud Bertrand tweeted out, "This might be the best explanation I've heard for why October 7th, and surprisingly, it comes from Ami Ayelan, former head of Shin Bet."
Oh, Shin Bet's the other one. That's right.
Israel's secret service and commander-in-chief of the Navy. Listen to what he said of why October 7th happened. Here we go.
And the first and probably most important is the political paradigm. The political paradigm was that since we cannot solve the conflict between us and Palestinians, all what we did failed. So the only way to do it now is managing the conflict. So the policy was managing the conflict and not to try to solve it.
Not to try to solve the conflict. We're going to manage it. So what do you think that means? That means what they're doing right now, ethnically cleanse. But here we go. I'll let him say it.
And in order to do it, we had to do something which we call divide and rule. Meaning we have to make sure that Palestinians will not have a unified leadership. To make sure that we should always be able to say that nobody to talk with, nothing to talk about.
So that's what you always hear Zionists saying, that, we'd like to make a peace deal. There's nobody to make a deal with. There's nobody. Who do we going to make? So he's just saying they set it up so that they could say that. Okay.
But to do it, we had to make sure that Hamas will go on controlling Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority, supported by Fatah, will go on leading Palestinians in the West Bank, and they will create a conflict. They will, in a way, almost fight each other. And
great job.
And in order to do it, we had to do all what we did, enhancing or assisting Hamas, transferring money, enabling people to work in Israel, etc., etc. And probably without our intention, we found ourselves strengthening Hamas and weakening Palestinian Authority. Once we did it, and what we saw on the Palestinian street, that Hamas is getting support, Palestinian support, because they became the only group or administration in the eyes of the Palestinians who fought against the Israeli occupation and in order to achieve Palestinian freedom. So
he's saying that they forced a situation where most of the Palestinians would support Hamas because they were the only group that were willing to fight against the occupation. And Israel set it up that way. Okay, so now here we go.
On the other hand, Fatah and Palestinian Authority were perceived by Israeli collaborators because until today, they refuse formally to use violence. And although they are very weak, they still are trying.
So he's saying, and so they set it up to where the Palestinian Liberation Organization would be seen as collaborators with Israel because they refuse to use violence to fight against their occupation. So this is all set up by the hand of Israel, backed by the world's biggest superpower, the United States.
Hey, it didn't really backfire because now that they support Hamas, you can ethically cleanse them.
That's exactly what they wanted.
Probably it was inadvertent. That's what he said, probably. Probably?
Probably? Yeah, I know.
It shouldn't be definitely?
It's definite.
We had no idea this would happen. We're just dumb.
This is exactly what they wanted. That's why else would you do this? Why else would you prop up Hamas? Why else would you divide them? So exactly so that they could do this. Here we go.
From time to time to fight Palestinian terror, especially in Jenin, Nablus, wherever they can. They cannot do much because, as I said today, and this is a great change, big change from the 90s, between 70 to 80% of the Palestinians are supporting Hamas only because Hamas is perceived as the one who fight for its freedom.
There you go. And so 70
it's because they're genocidal.
So right. So only 70. So and he's saying how the Palestinian Liberation actually fights against what he calls terrorists in Jenin, and so whenever the Palestinians fight back, the Palestinian Liberation tries to tamp that down, and that's why 70 to 80% of the Palestinian people now support Hamas because they're the only ones that are fighting for the Palestinians. They're the only ones willing to push back against the occupation, and they set it up. And who is that? That comes from the head of Shin Bet, Israel's Secret Service, and the commander-in-chief of their navy. That's who's saying that.
If you're going to pay for terrorists, I bring this up to friends who, it's funny when I bring the thing up and they can't refute that it's true that what BB said. This I've never seen before, but he's saying the same thing, just better. They all have to acknowledge it, and they go, and it's funny to watch people's face like, well, they thought it was a strategy. Okay, let's stick with that right there. Great job with your strategy. And also, okay, Hamas is evil. Wouldn't someone that funds Hamas be even more evil?
Right.
Because that's an evil group that I would never send money to or support. And by the way, no one supports, except Israel. No one at Harvard where the students don't feel safe. Did they have a sign? Did they say don't kill all the civilians? That's not really support or doing anything. Sending money to them for many years.
That's supporting them.
That's support. And you fucked yourself and now you're mad at other people pointing it out? Oh, I don't feel safe. How did you feel safe doing that?
Very well said. This idea that the students protesting on college campuses in America are supporting Hamas.
They did a die-in.
They're not doing anything. They're not actually supporting them. They're doing a protest that's going to have no effect. You know who is supporting them? The United States government. They're supporting Hamas. You know who's supporting Hamas? Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, their government is not only support. They're materially supporting them with suitcases full of cash. Suitcases full of cash, as reported by the New York frickin' Times.
And then mowing down their own hostages,
and then
idiots.
They killed their own hostages.
Yeah,
okay.
Wow, what a safe place to be. Thank God it's there,
So this idea that I support Hamas or Kurd or college students support Hamas. No, the people who support Hamas is Benjamin Netanyahu, the Likud party, and Israel government.
I've
That's
never been into these
them.
guys. Or ISIS or Al-Qaeda. It turns out my government and our best pals are the big supporters.
That's right. Okay. But Vivek, very... he's got his talking points down.
He knows a secret plan.
He knows how to get around this. Well, his secret plan is he won't fund Israel, but I just don't buy that. I think if the United States wasn't funding Israel and we didn't promise them the support of our military, this conflict wouldn't be happening, and Israel would be forced to be a good neighbor to their Arab states neighbors, but they're not. So now they're the terrorists, just like the United States is the world's terrorist. Israel's the terrorist of the Middle East. They are. Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.